you gonna be okay?
How big can it be?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to talk about Hellboy 2004. Now, this is one of my favorite comic book movies. I didn't read the comics. I know some people are going to be like, well, it's not a good Hellboy movie because you didn't read the comics growing up and you don't understand the nuances of the character. I watched the fucking movie. See, a lot of these people who say about comic books, they're like, you don't understand, you don't get it, this is this, that, in the comic. It's like, this is standalone. This is when I watched Captain America, the First Avenger. The guy, small guy, wants to join the army. They won't let him because he has asthma, he's got all this shit, right? He talks to the doctor. They say, hey, we got a program that'll get you in the army, fighting. And, yeah. So he joins the army, does the program, becomes a super soldier badass. And, along the way, he figures out that he's got to fight some really bad guy who's going to destroy America. I mean, if they never made another Captain America movie, that's a cool origin story. You have a great actor, great cast, great villain. It all makes sense. Hellboy, now they do give you they do give you an origin story. They tell you that he was found at a site, World War II. They do all that stuff. They give you an origin story, and then you get this news story, and it's the guy who basically brought him into the world. Now he's got to take out the bad guy who's coming back and kill him. And so it comes full circle. It's a standalone narrative. It's a good movie, although we'll get into that in just a minute. But for people who say you don't understand the movie because you didn't read the comics, first of all, kiss my ass. I didn't read the comics growing up. I'm not really a comic book person. Like, I want to read the comics. Like, Civil War kind of got me interested in wanting to read it because they should change a lot of stuff. And so I'm like, I'm curious to see what all they changed. So I did want to get into that, but there are so many people who are like, well, actually, that's not how it goes. Shut up. Don't care. I watch a movie. If I watch a movie, comic book movie, or whatever, like Kick-Ass. Didn't read the Kick-Ass comics, but the movies are fine. Like, people may not like them. They may not like the hit girls much older in the new ones, but I mean, I don't know why it matters. It's a good movie. It's a good action movie, good comedy, good all this stuff. So, with that being said, let's talk about Hellboy 2004. Starting off with the positives, I really like this movie. I know, good positive. But I really like this movie. I like Ron Perlman as Hellboy. Although he's kind of gone off the rails in the last couple of years with politics and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into that. But I think he does great as Hellboy. I wish he would have came back for 2019. Unfortunately, we got David Harbour. And I'll talk about that one. I'll do a review on that standalone movie and talk about that. But he's really great as Hellboy. He looks good, looks the part. I mean, if you were to take somebody, it's like, we want a big, tall guy who looks like he could fuck you up, and he's a wisecracking asshole, but he means well. Ron Perlman's kind of the guy. Doug Jones, he plays Ape Sapien in the movie. His makeup looks great. Guillermo del Toro, first of all, directed this movie, and he has an eye for that stuff. He likes the creepy creature feature kind of stuff. Unfortunately, he can't do this rated R because it's not a rated R Hellboy, although we need a rated R Guillermo del Toro Hellboy because we got that for 2019, but it fucking sucked. And so yeah, would love to see. That's one movie they need to bring back. We don't need a fucking Rush Hour 4. We don't need reboots, and we don't need the remake of Roadhouse that they're doing. We need a Hellboy 3, proper Hellboy 3, directed by Guillermo del Toro, rated R, bloody, brutal. Unfortunately, is it Selma Blair? I think it's Selma Blair. She plays, she's his love interest in the movie. And unfortunately, I think she has, MS, like, she's shaky. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful. I don't know the technical name for him. But, she's, like, shaky. It's hard. She did an interview a while back, and she was, like, shaky and everything, which is sad and unfortunate that she's having to go through that fucking sickness, and it's awful. But she does a good job in this movie. She's very subtle, but it's like she, there's a bit of a divide between her and Hellboy, but ultimately they work together, and she I think she does a great job. The story, like I said before, origin story, he was brought into this world by Rasputin through an experiment that they were doing for the Nazis. That got shot up to hell. Hellboy came into this world, and they took him in. He became a he starts hunting monsters and all this stuff, and yeah. Also, the late John Hurt plays Professor Broom. I didn't mind Ian McShane. I wish they just didn't give him good dialogue. But John Hurt plays a good Professor Broom. He looks the part, for sure. I like the look, like I said, I like the look of Hellboy. I like the guns and stuff that he has. The Samaritan looks badass. I actually wanted to go as Hellboy for Halloween, but that's a very expensive costume to do, so that'll be some years down the road. But I like the costume. I like the look. The set design is great. They do use the early crappy CGI, like I've been talking about in the Star Wars movies. Although they did that, they use the practical effects. Like, they have the practical suits. He's not like, I think there was a couple times where his hand was CGI. But they have the practical monster suits. They have like the practical sets. Like, shit looks, when it's like a practical set mixed with a CGI, looks really good. But when you have scenes of like Hellboy falling and it's just like a CGI double, and it's scarily obvious how bad it looks. That's just the time, and people are going to be like, well, what about Jurassic Park and Terminator? I'm pretty sure Guillermo del Toro did not have the same budget as they did for that movie. Plus, this was some years earlier. Inflation, stuff costs more. And what you could do on a $50 million budget back in, let's say, 1985. If you had a $50 million budget back in 1985, you could do way more than what you could do on a $50 million budget now. And that depends on the creator. It depends on what movie you're trying to make. But if you're making a real effects-heavy movie, people, like, I wish they would bring back practical ships, like sci-fi movies, like Star Trek and everything. Everything, like, they have the practical set that they're in, where they're like that, but it's like green screen pads are like touching on it, and then they'll add it in post, which I don't mind, whatever. But then it's like, the whole ship is CGI. And there's no practical ship. They're not blowing stuff up in a factory or warehouse somewhere, and which I guess that cuts down on the price, but it looks better, and people could tell the crappy CGI model. People could tell the crappy CGI models versus the real handmade practical ships. There are people who can tell the difference. But in this movie, they do use the practical sets on the monsters, which I appreciate. They make, obviously he's fully realized, covered in the red paint and everything. There's some scenes where, like I said, the hand was fake, and there's some scenes where the monster was obviously CGI. But other than that, I mean, the effects look fine. They have some really cool set pieces. You have the facility where he goes in, and you have the library where has Hellboy and Abe and all that, and they go into this big library, and it's a nice set piece. You have the actual building they go into, which is made to look like a waste management. Then you have the elevator and everything. Like, that looks cool. You have I like the cemetery scene, although it's like there's not a whole lot you could do to it. It's like very cool. You have the vivid bright red Hellboy versus the white backdrop, and it just looks cool. It's like if you took that, made it into a painting, it would look very artistic. That's what Guillermo del Toro does. He does very artistic. He does artistic, weird, interesting movies very well. Like I said, Doug Jones does a great job. He's great as Abe. I really like the assassin in the movie, Carl Cronin. I think that's his name. I'm probably saying that wrong, but I don't speak German. But he's got that cool gas mask, and he's got those swords. Although when he stabs the guy, Clay, Hellboy's FBI not FBI, but he's the government guy when he stabs him like 50 times. That's a very bloodless knife that he puts on the sides. Like that thing, if it was like, if he could do rated R, that thing would, you would see the knife go out the back and it'd be like, a good example is, you ever seen Freddy, if y'all have ever seen Freddy vs. Jason, you'll see him stab him in the bed, and it's like you see the knife go through the bed, and it's like blood and everything. You would see that, and then the bed folds over. That's pretty cool. But yeah, no, the movie, the Hellboy movies are kind of bloodless, except for the cuts and stuff that they get while they're fighting. Other than that, they're pretty bloodless until you get to this last movie, which they have their R rating so they could do more blood. But anyway, yeah, I mean, so far, like I said, I like the movie. I like the characters, the casting, everything is pretty good. Now, I have like a couple positives, or a couple negatives for the movie. When he's talking to Myers, they kind of have like a stereotypical, like I don't know if they like ADR'd that guy, or what, but a lot of his dialogue seems very forced, and ADR, like it was put in at post, and there's a lot of cliches, like he was trying to get my girl, kind of thing, and there's like, you're alright kid, at the end of the movie where he saves her and everything, and it's fine, but then you realize that it didn't really matter because he's not in the second movie. I don't know all that there, but it's like a lot of stereotypical dialogue and scenarios. It's like, this tries to kind of hit on my girl and I don't like him, and then at the end of the movie I'm going to like him again because he did something nice to me. And then you also have the FBI director is like, I don't trust this guy, he's a monster, he's a freak, calling him that the whole movie, and then at the end where he saves his life, he's like, you're fine, you're cool, man. It's like, it's very stereotypical stuff, and it's stuff that we can kind of do without. It didn't really have a unique thing there. Other one is the villain. Like, I like the look of the character, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. Like, he's just kind of there to give exposition. I did like the scenes where they're in Russia and they're at the room where he's got to like open the portal and everything. That kind of looks cool. I like the dream sequence where it's like, this is the prediction of the future. It's like, this is a premonition of the future, and he touches them and you can see the Cthulhu and the demons and everything, and you get the Hellboy with the crown and the big horns. Like, that stuff looks cool. But yeah, I didn't really think the bad guy was all too threatening. Like, he had all the magic stuff. He did, the monsters did more of the work for him. They kind of beat him down. And so, he didn't really do a whole lot. We didn't get a battle. And then he turns into like that big worm at the end. And it's like, okay, he died, but he turned into the big worm. But then that worm was taken out very quick. And so it didn't seem like it was a big deal. Like, he was a big deal. But yeah, I mean, I would say this movie gets let's say a B+. A B+ because it's fun, entertaining, and it's a good start to a franchise that unfortunately we didn't get the third movie of because of contractual things, and I wish we could get another one. Hopefully, I think there were some talks about Guillermo del Toro doing another one. He did that Pinocchio movie, which was really good. Hopefully he can go to Netflix and be like, or Netflix, and he'll be like, I want to do a Hellboy movie with Ron Perlman. And then they do it. But we'll see. But what do you guys think? Do you like the movie? Do you think it's entertaining? Do you like Ron Perlman as Hellboy? What do you think of the 2019 one? Put it in the comments below. But yeah, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you'd rather listen to me instead of seeing my dumb face for 10 minutes, be sure to check out my links down below. You can check out the movie podcast. It's SPLATTERVISION Presents. Same name as this series. All the movies that I've talked about, including some extra ones. I have my Monsters review, which I couldn't put out on YouTube, unfortunately, and then the Jacob's Ladder double feature that I talk about. So yeah, go check those out. You can also check out the Hollywood Morgue, which I talk about a bunch of other movie-related topics and actors and everything. Go check that out. Go follow those. Also check out all my socials, Twitter, Instagram. Do all that fun stuff. Thank you guys for watching and listening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.